Success that could destroy young artists. Decision that was a revolution in the art world. Artistic device that impressed viewers. The Nikanor Onatskiy Regional Art Museum in Sumy. It's hard to believe, but robbers gave rise to establishing one of the best museums in Ukraine. It was the case when the Bolsheviks, who occupied Ukraine, robbed industrialists and nobles, calling it nationalization. This helped one of Kyiv's best art collections to appear in the city of Sumy. The pictures presented in the provincial museum were painted by prominent Western European and Ukrainian painters. One of them is Moonlight Night in Crimea, Hurzuf. The romantic landscape of nighttime Hurzuf. The moon caresses the clouds floating above the bay with its light, and under the light one can see Mount Ayudak and the cliff of Onatskiy. The greenish-blue tones emphasize the tranquility of Crimean nighttime, while at the same time, the moonlight is calming and entices viewers to contemplate and figure out the meaning and appreciate this astounding visual effect. The composition of the painting allowed viewers the possibility to follow this moon glade that moved behind them. It's in some way a secret. When looking at the picture, people do not understand how a moon glade can move behind them.
Люди, коли дивляться, вони не розуміють, як це так виходить, що місячна доріжка рухається за ними.
On the one hand, this secret is very simple. On the other hand, it is not as simple as one might think. Sea, often foamy and raging in these painters' pictures, was turned into a golden mirror reflecting mountains and ships in the bay. It is the hallmark of the outstanding Crimean painter of Armenian descent, Ivan Ayvazovsky.
Коли вже ми кажемо ім'я Ayvazovsky,
the name of Ayvazovsky is associated with the sea, a calm and gentle sea, and at the same time, it is a sea that buries ships, people, and even rocks under its waves. There was some kind of mythical relationship between Ayvazovsky and the sea. He worshipped it and strongly felt its natural beauty and force.
Зв'язок у Айвазовського з морем. Він його боготворив, він його відчував.
Потому что родился он в Феодосии и прожил в этом городе всю свою жизнь.
This is because he was born in Feodosia and lived in this city all his life. Even when he became famous and worked as a court painter, he was offered to teach at the Academy of Arts and moved to St. Petersburg, but he could not imagine himself not living by the sea.
Своего существования без моря, это была его жизнь.
It was his life and his element. Furthermore, it was his homeland, Crimea and Tavrida, without which he of course also couldn't imagine his life and his work.
Як він сам казав, я тільки можу.
As he himself put it, I was only bound up in the sea. And when his father told him that there were places without sea and people didn't see it, Ivan cried. He could not imagine how to live and create his beautiful works of art without the sea.
Можна жити без моря.
Nevertheless, quite early he had to face living without the sea. In this case, two of Ayvazovsky's passions conflicted inside of him. From an early age, Vanya, or rather Ovanes, was obsessed with drawing. And he painted, but he only used improvised methods. After all, a son of an impoverished Armenian merchant could only dream of professional canvases, paints, and even getting a professional education. That would have only remained a dream, if not for one case. That was when an architect named Yakov Koch saw one of his drawings painted with samovar coal on the wall of his house.
І коли ось цей архітектор побачив,
After seeing the talented boy, the architect told about him to the city governor Alexander Kaznechev, who began to patronize the young boy.
долею молодого юнака. По-перше, він
Firstly, the governor took him to Simferopol, where Ivan received an education at a local gymnasium. And this is exactly when Kaznechev helped the young man to get accepted to the St. Petersburg Academy of Arts.
юнака влаштувати в Петербурзьку академію мистецтв.
The Crimean governor's support and conditions created for Aivazovsky were not in vain. In 1833, he became a student of the Imperial Academy of Arts in St. Petersburg. His gymnasium drawings allowed him to be accepted to study there and continue his works.
И, собственно, его
And
мечта
actually, his dream was to become a painter of maritime landscapes. He started with a landscape class led by Maxim Vorobyov. In 2 years, he showed outstanding results. And in 1835, he received a silver medal for his 2 landscapes, View of the Seaside in the vicinity of St. Petersburg and The Sketch of the Air over the Sea. He also became an assistant to fashionable French maritime painter Philippe Tanner. It would seem that Ivan Aivazovsky's cherished dream came true, but in fact, this appointment almost put an end to all of his dreams and aspirations. Philippe Tanner forbid Aivazovsky to paint his own works, and in particular to exhibit them.
Займатися своїми особистими малюнками і виставляти їх особливо. Але в цей час Айвазовський знає, що в 1836 році повинна була бути
But at the same time, Aivazovsky knew that an exhibition was scheduled to take place in 1836. Eminent painters Ivanov, Brylov, Sorovit, Zauerweid and Kiprensky were preparing for it. And Aivazovsky also wanted to compete with these masters.
що він все-таки
He decided to take part in the exhibition. There, Aivazovsky exhibited his 5 pictures that were highly appreciated by visitors and art critics.
похвалив серед критиків.
But his teacher gave Aivazovsky low marks. Moreover, he complained of the disobedient apprentice to Russian Tsar Nicholas I. By the Tsar's order, all of Aivazovsky's pictures were removed from the exhibition, and Aivazovsky was forbidden to study at the academy.
І півроку
For half a year, Ivan was on the crossroads.
на такому роздоріжжі
Naturally, no one could go to Tsar Nicholas I and tell the truth. A chance to talk with the emperor about Tanner's unfair treatment towards Aivazovsky was awaited.
коли можна буде з імператором поговорити про те, що не зовсім справедливо Танер відносився до Івана Константиновича Айвазовського. І такий моментик знайшли.
And such a moment happened. It was Zauerweid who respected Aivazovsky and justly agreed to accept the painter to his class on military sea battles.
Клас. І ось тут
So there, Ivan had an opportunity to explore ships, their construction and their elements. He naturally did not study long in Zauerweid's class. Be that as it may, it was very useful for him, because there he managed to study and learn the detailed construction of ships.
дуже корисним, тому що він вивчив будову кораблів.
In 1837, the Academy Council decided to send Aivazovsky ahead of schedule from the Academy to Crimea, where he arrived in the spring of 1838. Being away from the Academy, he started painting landscapes of Crimean towns. Soon his pictures with the Black Sea coast near Kerch, Feodosia, Yalta and Hurzuf appeared. According to the painter's biographers, the first 3 were exact depictions of the coastal towns, and the 4th, Hurzuf, was a poetic embodiment of the moonlit night at Ayudag. The work was called Moonlight Night in Crimea, Hurzuf. And it is considered by art critics one of the best among Aivazovsky's early works.
І характеризуючи ось
Characterizing his early works, it is worth mentioning his teachers. Of course, not only Maxim Vorobyov was his teacher, Karl Brylov was also his teacher, but he drew on classical landscape art as well. It was Claude Lorrain who was a master of the classic landscape. He based his works on Sylvester Shchedrin, who studied in St. Petersburg and then left for Italy, where he lived for many years.
виїхавши у Італію, практично прожив там дуже довго і багато років. По тодішнім часам пейзаж, ось він був...
In those days, landscape art was based on theatrical productions. They included three side scenes. That is, the first scene was darkened, the second one was lighter, and the third scene was fully lighted. And such pictures were necessarily painted from nature. Initially, in his first years of his creative work, Айвазовський followed the methods of how these artists painted and tried to paint in a similar way. But he chose to continue painting natural landscapes.
Він якраз і працює так, як працювали ці художники. Він працює з натури.
В раннем творчестве
Academic or classic painting was typical for his early works. This is a glaze. That is priming. That is, canvas is primed, because priming protects paint from canvas and the canvas from paint.
То есть то, что мы говорили, когда, кладется грунт,
Priming is needed to avoid the absorption of paint in the canvas.
ассоциация с землей,
It is followed by covering with multi-layer painting. One layer is put on another. Each layer requires full drying.
обязательно грунт.
This process is repeated because in the case of partial drying of the lower layer,
Живопись. Накладывался один слой.
the higher level will collapse from the lower one and the paint will fall off the canvas.
Потому что если не выждать нужное время, если не высохнет нижний слой, то верхний его обязательно, продавит, а краска рухнет. И вот
It is very painstaking work when one layer is put on another and an ideal mirror surface is created. This happens when strokes are smoothed out and then an absolute mirror surface is achieved. This picture is also painted from nature. We have here side scenes that are balanced with rocks and trees. It has an oval shape.
Яка урівноважена і скелею, і деревами. Вона заключена в овал. І я хочу сказати, що
I want to say that Айвазовський could brilliantly convey the beauty of the movement of waves in the sea. He was also very good at expressing sunlight or golden sun or silver moonlighting, which is clearly depicted in this picture.
або золотисте, або сріблясте місячне освітлення, яке якраз і в
He
нашій
managed to show a bright moonlight and a warm and tender summer night in this picture.
лагідно, і він і передає у цій картині.
все годы его
All the years of his studying and mastering professional skills were devoted to the sea.
посвящены именно морской стихии, и ему как
He,
никак
like no other artist of Russian art, had the natural skill to comprehend, understand, and convey to people the dynamics of the sea and its eternal movement.
стихии. Вот это вечное движение.
Проте я хочу сказати, що він дуже гарно передає і земну твердь. І ось на перший погляд, коли ми дивимося на цю картину, то ми бачимо...
But I also want to add that he had a skill for conveying beauty on land. Looking at the painting, we see only the movement of the moon glade, which is heading towards us. But if to take a closer look at the picture, we will see that life exists on land. There are carts with drivers on the move, houses with light inside, and people going to and fro. Therefore, everything around is in motion. That is, living is not only in the moon glade, but also there, where at first glance it is not visible to the human eye.
Місячна доріжка, а воно і там, де, здається, на перший план немов би нічого не видно.
Moonglade and solar reflection are some elements that were in the minds of those who saw these pictures. After all, these images are moving along in tandem with the audience.
Так от цей секрет, він дуже простий з одного боку, а з другого він боку не такий то вже простий. В чому полягав секрет?
This secret is pretty simple on the one hand. But on the other hand, it's not as simple as one may think. What is it? The artist needed natural light to place either the moon or the sun in the very center of the composition. And when the artist found this center, the viewer looking at the picture could move with this beauty.
Передвигатися разом із цією красою. Тобто це вдавалося.
Айвазовський succeeded in creating this magical art form, and viewers of his works were really enchanted by his moonlight and solar glades.
Ось цими доріжками.
The painter presented all his pictures before professors of the Imperial Academy of Arts. After all, his trip to Crimea was not an exile or expulsion, but a bonus. In September 1837, he became a recognized artist and received the Major Gold Medal for Calm in the Gulf of Finland and the Great Road at Kronstadt. It provided these renowned and talented artists very great privileges. Among the most desirable ones were studying abroad at the expense of the state budget.
А пройшло всього 4 роки, як він навчається в академії, а навчання 6 років. І ось тут
He studied for 4 years at the academy, though he had to study for 6 years. And here's the phenomenon. For the first time, the artist was allowed to complete his study over 4 years. At his own request, he was sent to his beloved Crimea for the last 2 years, where he had to complete an order, which included painting townscapes that had to be assessed by professors of the academy in Petersburg.
треба було написати міста кримські, йому треба було створити пейзаж, відправляти їх в Петербург, для того, щоб професори там оцінили його майстерність.
And they positively assessed his work. For his Crimean pictures, Ivan Ayvazovsky received on September 23, 1839, the Academy's graduation diploma, the first rank in personal nobility. He also had to go on a foreign business trip for 6 years, which he could never return from. As for his fateful work, it ended up in the personal collection of the Kyiv industrialist, philanthropist, and art collector Oskar Hansen. In 1918, at the height of the revolutionary events, Hansen brought the best part of his collection to his small homeland Sumy, where his mother Olena Sumovskaya lived. Over time, the collection was nationalized and became the basis for the Sumy Museum of Art and History. In short, this is how the provincial city of Sumy received one of the best art collections in Ukraine.